So we're back, Chuck, and I guess you pointed out my Jaguars celebration. So, I guess you're rocking the Rays gear to celebrate a pretty successful season. Um,
Yeah,
I yeah, I think
they
there's
definitely overachieved.
yeah.
Like anytime in a market like Tampa that you can make it through World Series and beat the Yankees and be like that. Obviously I'm a Cleveland guy first, foremost, always, but you can't help but love and respect what the Rays have done the past few years, being as competitive as they are.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, so, so of course, this isn't a sports show. So, despite our attire, so right now we're going to talk about this major announcement just a couple weeks ago from Motional, which is a autonomous vehicle company, I guess, development company, and then Lyft, the Uber competitor and well-known ride-sharing company. I guess I didn't prepare this beforehand, so we all think of them as a ride-sharing company, but I believe that Lyft really tries to position itself as sort of a mobility company, right? For a comprehensive mobility company, so they really want to provide any type of transportation you need, not just the ride sharing.
They kind of dabble in more areas than just Uber. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, okay, so we're getting lost in the weeds, but really the point is that Motional and Lyft are have partnered to have a autonomous vehicle ride-sharing network in Las Vegas that has been ongoing for a few years now, I believe. Primarily like airport strip, or maybe not even the airport, I don't know, but that just for travelers, tourists in the strip. And now I guess that's been successful enough that now they're claiming in 2023 they're going to roll this out nationwide to markets all over the country. And quite honestly, for me, 3 years time horizon seems much sooner than I had anticipated for something like this.
Yeah.
What do you think, Chuck?
It's big, especially when you consider how many markets. I mean, you're going from effectively test markets now and, really just starting kind of the concept of driverless technology to really rolling it out everywhere. It's a very, I think, ambitious timeline for them to operate under, just to say the least. But I mean, I think it's potentially exciting, and I think there's a lot of opportunities that could arise from it.
For sure. I think I agree. I mean, if they can do this, and if they really believe that it can successfully launch without, tech issues, without operational issues, that you just imagine may come out of like a fleet of autonomous vehicles flooding the streets of a certain city. If they can do it, of course, it's going to be a monumental step forward for this technology. But it is a big leap. When you think about what they're doing in Vegas, again, I don't know all the details. I haven't looked into this too much, but I was, peripherally aware of it as this project and program was ongoing. It seems like Vegas is sort of a controlled environment. You have the demand from tourists. That this is something that has been sort of missing in Vegas, so it's something that's needed. This a way for tourists to get around. Certainly, not like other cities that have comprehensive transit networks. And then, in Vegas, I imagine that a large share of the vehicle population, on the streets is taxis and so they are, professional drivers who may be a little bit more careful and a little bit more aware of autonomous vehicles on the street with them. You're not talking about just some, XYZ city in America where everyone's driving around all the time, teenagers, old people, and just
there's a lot of variables to control for.
Yeah, exactly. And so So it seems like Vegas was the right test market for this. And when they're looking at one market in particular, you can kind of prepare. You can kind of create the environment that you need to be successful, much more so than you can when you just say we're rolling out to a dozen cities or whatever in the country. And so, yeah, 3 years again. I come back to it. 3 years, two years and change at this point is not a lot of time to have again have autonomous vehicles just roaming the street
everywhere.
in mixed traffic. So it's exciting that they're really pushing for this, and I'm excited to see what happens. But I'm hesitant to fully. Yeah, I'm keeping my expectations in check. We'll put it that way.
And I agree, and I think part of it is, and what we've seen with AVs in general, I think people have a distrust, rational or how irrational it might be of this type of technology about, like, oh, what if there's hackers? What if these robots don't know how to drive, or people, like ignoring the statistics about how dangerous the average drivers on the road are now. When there's one, accident or mistake with one of these things, it basically has massive pushback that, you don't see when, there's hundreds or thousands of regular vehicles getting in accidents every day. So I think that kind of public support might be a challenge in many markets, and kind of like the, also kind of the trust, I think, of the professional drivers, like kind of the interest there. I think there's, two things that can happen here. And from an urbanist perspective, the one positive thing that I think might happen is it really might, reduce the need for permanent parking, and kind of allow for better use of that space as public realm, or, for retail, or for whatever else that the city could capitalize on. I think a concern is potentially with kind of the same thing you have with the inundation of these scooters that are much hated or have been rolled back in some cities. Like, how are you going to have the control of some of them just ending up in a big crowded circle, and how are you going to, manage that? Or are cars just going to be on the road all the time, since if no one's in them, they might have a vested interest of the company in just having their vehicles just kind of piloting around endlessly all day. So, those are two thoughts that I was kind of thinking about here, and I'm not sure which one will come more to fruition with these.
Right. I don't know what they have done in Vegas. I think I've read something before, but I'm hesitant to say it and be totally wrong. So I'm not sure what they've done with their pilot program, but I think that it would be feasible to have sort of these designated sort of waiting areas for these vehicles. So I mean, essentially parking spaces, right? It's not like they need to be hovering around, but they can just be waiting in a single space. So we have plenty of parking spaces in most of our cities, and as you were saying, there may even be a reduction in the need for them. So certainly we can save some of those and designate these for the autonomous vehicles, autonomous taxis, if you will. But yeah, I think I'm sure that that's something that has been considered and discussed. But of course, when we see it play out in the real world, different things can happen. So
there's a lot of things that aren't envisioned. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, even this conversation, I know in real estate circles, this conversation, even just from the advent of Uber, before we even dive into the fact that autonomous vehicles may be here in 3 years, just when it was just a possibility years down the road. I know real estate people were talking about this as well, and what kind of transformational impacts this could have on how we use our spaces, parking garages, things like that. And so, I guess my point is just that this this kind of conversation is already taking place, and I think we'll be ready as cities, as communities, as developers. We'll be ready to adapt to what the market needs are.
Absolutely, yeah. It'll be a process, but I think eventually this is a way, because I think there's a demand for this type of technology.
Yeah,
and I think habits benefit.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, exciting news. Of course, I think you and I both are kind of on the fence about whether it's realistic or not, but it's exciting nonetheless to see them push forward.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. All right, Chuck. We'll talk later.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.